Hey, Kourtney here, and I'm interviewing Brett with IBK Insurance, and we're going to go over some common questions about insurance right now with the Spokane fires, and some common misconceptions that are being spread on Facebook right now. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Of course.
One of the first questions is, after everything that's been happening with the Spokane fires, what do you think homeowners most need to know right now?
Well, right now, there's obviously moratoriums where you can't purchase or change your insurance coverages. So really right now, I think the most important thing is to do your best to take care of your neighbors that need your help. Whatever you can do, either that's, financially provide food, provide clothing, donations, whatever people can do, I think is really the most important thing that people need to know right now. I know that doesn't really have to pertain to insurance, but insurance is what it is right now. There's not really much we can do to change it. If we wanted to, better prepare ourselves, we needed to do that prior to the fires.
Right.
But for right now, I think the most important thing is taking care of your neighbors.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of so many people are pouring out in Spokane. It's been really cool to see all these pop-ups and
the Spokane community has done a fantastic job of coming together to help people. I know that a couple years back we had the Gray and the Oregon fire, and I know a lot of people felt let down by insurance companies or by the federal government. And I think that has propelled people at this time to come together more as a community rather than to depend on the government or our insurance.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's even to the point where there's just so much overflow. People are we can't take any more donations.
Yeah, I've seen that. And, there's plenty of other donation locations you can take your stuff to in the event that a place is full. Or you can, build up your donations and wait for 2 weeks, because this disaster is not going to be over this weekend. This disaster is going to be impacting the Spokane area for probably years to come.
Yep, exactly. And with all the information, it's been hard for me to keep up with it. So I designed an online hub where anytime I find legit information about where you can donate, volunteer, what people are needing, I've put it all in one spot, because at least for me, I have ADD and I can't keep up with all of that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot, and it's amazing what Spokane has done for our neighbors.
Yeah. Now there's a big misconception that I'd like to clear out of the way too. Is I've been seeing so many people ask these questions in the community groups, because they found the guy that lit the one of the fires up there.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, if it's arson, does that mean I can't make a claim on my insurance now?
No, so that is false. Arson is a crime, and if he's convicted of the crime of arson, he will face harsh penalty for that. But that has nothing really to do with your insurance. Your insurance protects you from that. You can't light your own house on fire and then claim insurance. Right. But if you are in an unfortunate event like we have experienced now with this arson, your insurance does extend to that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I just wanted to clear that up for everyone, because that question's everywhere and there's a lot of weird answers. And then another, I think, misconception that's being put around there is, I'm not going to name any names, but people claiming that someone they know in insurance is writing policies in areas that are on the.
I can't speak to every insurance company. I know the majority of the insurance companies that I work with are on a full moratorium for several zip codes north of Spokane, 99208, 99218, 99205. 99217, 99026, and I believe 99021 are completely out right now. And then I do have some companies that are not offering coverage for the entire state of Washington currently. because of the wildfire and our current state of wildfire season. These fires are probably not the last significant fires that we will see in this fire season this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, August has always been the big one, and we really got an early start this year.
Yeah, I have some friends that lived here a long time, and we used to have 4 seasons, and now we have 5 seasons, and the last one before fall is smoke.
Yep. Yeah, I grew up in Spokane, and I don't remember the fires being this bad like they have been.
No, in the last decade or so, they've significantly gotten worse. And there's several different reasons for that, right? There's land management concerns. There's community concerns with people being out in the forest more commonly than they have in the past. And so there's multiple factors that are continuing to increase and also increase our fire risk here in Washington State.
Yeah, definitely. And I've kind of seen that, and I kind of want, with my stewardship series, is to bring awareness to that and how people can take care of their yards and be safe when they're out in the woods to kind of minimize all the damage we've been seeing.
Yeah. Making sure that, you're doing the best to maintain your property, not having tall grass, not having trees that aren't limbed up to 6 to 8 feet. There's multiple different things that we can do as property owners to minimize our specific risk. But unfortunately, all of these fires, with the wind and the heat, a lot of property owners didn't have an opportunity to defend their property. Right. Because these fires started not in homes. They started in rural areas, and then they were able to grow significantly and then move into, highly populated areas.
Right. And I know I've seen some people do it, but do those roof sprinklers really work against fire? Do you know?
In a situation like this, probably not. But I have roof sprinklers on my property. I don't see any reason in fire season not to run them. Some people think it's, not necessary, but, in my line of work, I see lots of times when people think some things aren't necessary. And maybe they're expensive, or maybe they're, think it's foolish, or you look silly because you're on your roof putting sprinklers on your roof and nobody else is doing it. But I think that, I think they're a good deterrent. I do believe that probably in this situation, a roof sprinkler probably would have not been very helpful for the majority of people that lost their homes. But who knows? Maybe it would have helped. Maybe it would have driven the fire in a different direction. Nobody really knows.
Yeah, very possible. All right. And I know it's you can't forecast or anything, but as far as the moratoriums go, about how long should people expect to have those in place?
Well, so it's different for each individual carrier. So some carriers are probably going to be lifting moratoriums as soon as the fires are 100% contained and there's not evacuation zones. Some may take in consideration where we're at in the fire season and continue those moratoriums. The longest I've ever seen was 90 days. And that, that was a couple years ago when we had the Oregon fire. So it's going to be different for every carrier, but it's going to be between, weeks to months.
Right.
It really depends on, each individual insurance carrier's appetite for risk.
Right.
Because there's no insurance company that's going to insure your house while your house is on fire.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
They're not, you can't be like, hey, I need to buy insurance while your home's on fire and believe that you're going to be able to secure insurance.
Right.
So that's kind of the mindset that we have to have in trying to predict when those moratoriums will lift, because, we don't know what the risk appetite is for each individual insurance company.
Yeah. After the fires, will there be an increase in insurance rates? And I mean, that's a big question people are tossing around too.
Yes, this disaster is definitely going to affect insurance premiums, just like it has in California and Florida and Colorado and Texas and all the other places that have experienced significant natural disasters. This is going to impact the insurance premiums for the entire state of Washington, because the risk that the insurance carriers submit can't be based on half the state and not the other half of the state.
Yeah.
The entire risk is submitted for the entire state, and so this is going to impact insurance premiums moving forward.
Okay.
And I wish I could predict the future and tell you how much percentage-wise or dollar-wise that might impact, but we really have no idea how much this is going to affect Washington State, and even if this is the last significant fire in Washington State. If there continues to be more and more significant fires, insurance companies may not want to operate in the state of Washington, and that will impact us significantly.
Right. If that happens, I guess we'll see what that looks like when we cross that bridge.
I sure hope we don't have to.
Right. If people have questions, I know a lot of people are probably like, maybe haven't even touched their insurance policy for like 10 years. What would you recommend to people like reaching out to their agents and being on top of their policies right now?
Well, with the moratoriums, you can't change or add insurance coverages right now. But once those moratoriums are lifted, I highly recommend that people contact their agent to review their policy to make sure that their coverages are adequate. Because if you haven't reviewed your insurance policy in, like you said, 10 years, you're probably significantly underinsured for what you would actually need to rebuild your home. That's just based on inflation, right? Homes in 2016 definitely didn't cost the same amount to build as they do now, right? And we've had a lot of changes between 2016 and now, right? We had COVID, we've had significant natural disasters, lots of different things have happened, but making sure that we have adequate coverage to rebuild our home is really, really important, because some of these people are not going to have had enough coverage to rebuild their whole home.
Right.
Which is going to be, it's unfortunate, that, and it is, that's how kind of how the insurance industry is that, it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? Like, set it and forget it. And really, that shouldn't be the way that we do our insurance. We should be really reviewing our insurance protections annually, in my opinion, just to make sure that, if your house is in fire, that you do have the right protection.
Right, and maybe not depend on your agent to reach out to you every time there's a change, or make sure you're like in contact with them.
Yeah, contacting your agent. I know in my agency, we automate all of our systems to request that you review your insurance with us. And I know the majority of other insurance agents do that as well. The issue is that a lot of people they think it's going to take a lot of time. They think it's going to be bothersome, when in reality, an insurance policy can be reviewed in, 10 to 15 minutes. And if everything's set correctly, then you don't have to make any changes, right? You just get to know that you have the peace of mind that if something, God forbid, does happen like this, that you have the coverage to put your house back.
Right. And is there maybe like a fear, like someone's like, they don't want to talk to the agent because they might be upsold on something, or, they might try to just sell me something that I don't want?
Yeah, I do think that is, probably a reason that a lot of people don't, want to review their policy, because a lot of people, do think it's an opportunity to sell, right? I don't see policy reviews as an opportunity to sell somebody anything. I view them as an opportunity for the consumer to know what they have, right? Like, ask anybody what kind of Xbox they have, right?
Yeah, they'll know.
They know what kind of Xbox they have. Yeah. But if you ask them like I ask people all the time, what insurance provider do you have? I have no idea. Well, if you're in a situation like this and you have no idea, what are you going to do? You know, like, and I've had people unfortunately contact me from these fires that have asked me, hey, is my insurance policy in place? But you don't have an insurance policy with me or my agency. Mm-hmm. Well, I did 5 years ago. Well, you transitioned your insurance policies to somewhere else. In this one specific one was March of 2023 is when they moved their insurance policy away from my agency.
Oh, wow.
His wife moved the insurance policy. He did not know that she had done that. And now he has no idea where his insurance policy is, and his house burnt down.
Oh, man.
And so I'm obviously I want to do everything I can to help this family, but I'm not their agent.
Right.
And I don't know where their insurance policy is, and there's nothing I can do. And so making sure that you know where your insurance is, know who your agent is, is very, very important, which I know, like I said, people set it and forget it and let it ride until they see a big premium increase, and then they're mad and they want to change their insurance. That should not really be the way we're managing our insurance policies.
Right. And apparently communication's a big key there too. Like, that's wild that, she changed it, he didn't know about it, and now when there's an emergency, like, what do we do?
Yeah. Yep. And so they're trying to find where their insurance policy is at, but unfortunately there's nothing that I can do to help them.
Yeah. And that comes down to being prepared in advance. Like, I know a lot of people are probably thinking about that now.
Yeah. I would say 99% of people are now thinking about their insurance policy because, we had a wildfire tear through our town. Your neighbor's house is burned down. Your friends, your family, all their stuff is gone. And, now you're like, oh man, is that important? Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's super important. But, a bad stigma about insurance is that we've all been taught by the television and commercials that we need to get the cheapest price.
Right.
Right. So, and we're consistently trying to get a lower premium. People always call me and say, I'm trying to buy this house and I need to get the premium as low as possible. I've never had somebody that had their house burned down ask me for a lower premium.
Right.
They want to know if their stuff's going to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. And that's the way that my agency, we operate. And, I tell people this all the time. I really don't care whether you buy insurance from me and my agency or not. We are going to lead with putting the product in front of you that's going to protect you in the event that you need it. Mm-hmm. So if you decide to go buy insurance somewhere else, that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Because I know that when I put out an insurance policy, that it's going to do what you expect it to do.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, well, we lowered your personal property down to X amount, so now only 10% of your stuff is covered. I had an agency actually the other day said that in their agency, they only write insurance up to 80% of the reconstruction cost.
Wow.
Well, in the event that you do that, to cut costs, and how much are you saving? A couple $100 a year, mm-hmm. a few bucks a month, to only get 80% of your home back. I don't think that that's a very valuable trade-off.
No.
I think it's more important that you figure out how to earn $200 more in a year so that you can afford the insurance that's actually going to protect you in the event that you need it.
Right.
Because again, all of the people that lost their homes want to get their house back.
Yep.
They don't want to get half their house back. They don't want to put a tiny home on their house, right? Yeah. They want their whole house back. And that's what insurance is supposed to do.
Right. And then even thinking about future preparedness, I always think it's a good idea, and I want to do this with my stewardship things, like not only taking care of your yard and everything, but also having like maybe an emergency to go packet like ready to go in your garage or something that has all your insurance information, so you know where everything is all the time.
Yeah. So at my house, we keep all of our important documents in a fire safe, basically a briefcase. Mm-hmm. So all of our documents, passports, birth certificates, important financial documents, our insurance documentation, all of it is in a fireproof safe that we can grab and be gone in 30 seconds. And I highly recommend that everybody gets that, as well as one thing that I also do at my family. Basically, I take my phone and I walk around as if it's like a body camera. Mm-hmm. I open all the cupboards, I open all the closets, and I do a full walkthrough of my entire house twice a year. And then we put that on a USB drive, and then we put that into the fireproof safe.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So if God forbid something did happen to my property, I have video of all the things in my home, right? And why I think that's really important is because right now these people are dealing with something that's so extremely difficult. Like, I can't even comprehend how difficult it is for some of these people right now, and how also difficult it would be to remember everything you have simultaneously while dealing with all of this. And so having that just gives you even more peace of mind that I know what I have in my house. I don't have to try to remember every single thing, right? Because your insurance companies, they don't just write blank checks, right? And they just don't do that. But if we have documentation or we have some kind of footage, or, you know, I have one client that she literally keeps an Excel spreadsheet of almost every single thing that she buys. And I can't imagine doing that because that sounds extremely hard.
Right.
But she's going to get everything back in the event that she has a total loss. She's going to get everything back on that list.
Right.
Where some people may have not thought about their personal belongings or anything like that as far as their insurance is concerned for years. Mm-hmm. And they might have no idea, you know, the amount of belongings that they may have lost.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. But I think this day and age, most people have smartphones, and we can set reminders like on our Google calendars, like annually, like, or biannually, like, hey, this is the time to review this, this, and this, and just set that up. So, because you'll forget later in the year.
Oh, yeah.
But totally. If you set up reminders for yourself on your phone or your computer, like, oh, now I got to do that. I think that would save a lot of headache. Yeah. And, you know, again, it comes back to insurance is out of sight, out of mind, right? We just pay the bill and hopefully nothing ever bad happens to us. Well, sometimes bad things do actually happen. That's why we have the insurance. Right.
And so it's really important to document all that.
I think I wasn't following this part of the news too much, but was the mayor talking about insurance, or our city council talking about insurance?
You know, everybody has been talking about insurance, right? Yeah. Like, insurance has come up in several interviews on the news. It's it's probably the most important conversation that people are having right now. Right. You know, other than dealing with the actual physical loss of their properties, you know, our next thing is to deal with the insurance. So it is at, you know, the top of everybody's mind right now.
Do you have any suggestions for people? Because another question that's going around is what's going to happen to the real estate industry here in Spokane after these fires? And I mean, what can people do with total losses of their property and not get scammed or ripped off by people who are already preying on them?
Oh man, I'm really, you know, it's really disappointing to see some of the things that are actually going out, as far as, you know, people saying if you get your bid today, we'll give you 10% off. And, you know, if you use us for X work, we'll do X work for free. You just have to be really careful with, you know, vetting contractors, cleanup crews, all the people that you're going to work with. You need to, really do your due diligence. Make sure they didn't just start their business on August 1st.
Right.
Make sure that they have been in business, they've been local, or maybe if they're like a large company from out of state, that you check on them, because there are going to be tons of people that get taken advantage of in this situation, which is absolutely heartbreaking, because these people are already going through the worst times of their lives.
Right.
And now, a contractor comes and, unfortunately scams them, or doesn't finish the job, or, does the work, does poor workmanship, or, whatever can happen. You just got to really do your best to vet those people, get, recommendations from other people that you know and trust, that have used these people. It's really scary when these kind of things happen, because of how many people are predatory in there.
Right.
In these times of need. Yeah, that's really all you can do, is make sure you get good recommendations from people you know and trust. Make sure that you vet these companies, get recommendations, see previous work that they've done. All those kinds of things are going to be helpful in you making your decision to who you're going to work with on whatever you're going to do.
Right. And I feel that would be the same, I know there's investors, investor companies, and real estate agents out there who are seeing this as almost like a gold mine opportunity for themselves. Kind of like what we saw down in California with the fires, people coming in and wanting to just completely take advantage of the lots and everything for themselves.
Yeah, that's going to happen. People are going to feel like it's their only option to either move on or to get something different. There are going to be people that are trying to take advantage of the misfortune of many people.
Right. So that's unfortunate. Even with the National Guard there, you still hear people are looting, right after fires, people going through and looting.
Yeah, I actually had a client, and he was allowed back into his home on Thursday of last week.
Mm-hmm.
He did not experience any loss, but when he got to his home, he did find that somebody was in his home that wasn't supposed to be there. And thankfully, he was able to actually contact the National Guard, and the National Guard was able to remove this person. But that's just one house.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of homes that were evacuated.
Yep.
And my neighborhood was evacuated for 5 days. Thankfully, when I got home, there was no issues. I didn't hear of any other issues with my neighbors on my street. But unfortunately, we have heard of several situations where somebody's somewhere they're not supposed to be.
Right. So it might be a good idea, if people are returning to their homes, maybe bring someone with them, in case you find a squatter in there or something.
Yeah, always. Maybe check the home before you bring your family and your pets inside your home. Maybe make sure, maybe you have a neighbor come with you to check out your home. Maybe you have a trusted friend or family member that can come with you, because you could be walking into a dangerous situation that you're not expecting.
Right.
And a lot of people are just so excited to get back home, right?
Yeah.
They're excited to be not evacuated. They're excited to come back to their home, but you do want to make sure that you are safe in entering your home, to make sure that somebody that's not supposed to be there isn't there.
Yep. Exactly. Well, I think that's about it. Do you have any other recommendations, suggestions to Spokane in this situation that you can think of that you would like them to know?
The most important thing is, as far as insurance goes, is to contact your agent specifically, or your insurance company specifically, because all insurance companies operate differently. All of them are going to have different answers to your questions, maybe not significantly different, right? but they are going to be policy specific and carrier specific to each individual policyholder is going to be different. Not one policy have I ever written has been exactly the same as another. And so making sure that you specifically talk to your agent and your insurance company is very important, because people will call me and ask me questions and I can give them advice and I can, help guide them. But I can't speak to their policies. If I'm not their agent, I can't speak to their policies. So I can't say if something is going to be covered or if this deductible is going to apply or this or that. You have to specifically talk to your company.
Right, exactly. And on that note, you want anyone to have your contact information for future reference? Not obviously what you just talked about, not reaching out to you if you're not their agent, but maybe in the future if they wanted to.
My agency is called IBK Insurance. My phone number is 509-688-7039, and Brettjohnson at ibkinsurance.com. And then one other thing that I think is really important for people to know right now, specifically in the disaster zone, if you are able to make it to Shadle Park High School, because that's where they have the Insurance Disaster Relief Center.
Okay.
If you can get to Shadle Park High School and you can talk to your insurance company there, those people are very well trained in natural disaster response. Like for me, I've never dealt with a natural disaster here in Washington State my agency, my life was significantly impacted. But these people have. It's specifically their job to deal with large natural disasters. I have one client that went down there and walked away with a payout for their additional living expenses within 30 minutes of them going down there. They were paid out. They were ready to go. They have a Airbnb that's set up for them. And that all happened within 30 minutes of them going to the disaster relief zone or center. And so if you can get down there and you can work with those claims people, they are going to be significantly more trained in this type of situation and this type of loss than just calling the 800 number and filing your claim. Because those people are, at the 800 number, they're still claims people. They can still help you navigate that. But they don't deal with these huge natural disasters every day. They deal with fender benders in the Fred Meyer parking lot, right?
Yeah.
They deal with, maybe a small house fire, maybe a detached garage that has burned down. But these people that work in the disaster relief center, they're very well trained. There's several different insurance companies. I saw USAA down there. I saw Allstate, Liberty Mutual, State Farm, Progressive. I saw all of them down there. And they are going to be your quickest, most convenient way to get a hold of the claims department for this natural disaster.
All right, that's good information. I'll make sure I get the address and times for that up. Hey, quick update. Brett mentioned going to the Shadle Center to talk to insurance specialists. However, the Shadle Center is now closed for that, so you need to contact your agent directly. Awesome. Well, I appreciate this, and we'll have more future videos on insurance as well, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks.
Yep.